So how are you, my friend?
Just tired, as
Yeah.
usual. Always work to do.
Are you traveling this week or are you home?
I am home. So,
Okay.
first time in 3 weeks. I'll be home most of next week, and then I'll be gone again. So,
Where to?
I will be teaching a basic rifle gunsmithing weekend class in North Carolina at MCC. And then
Oh,
I have to leave straight from there and go up to PA for DOC classes.
God. Most of
Yeah.
your stuff on the East Coast right now?
At the moment, no, actually, I've got to go to Oregon in July,
Oregon in July. Where are you going to be?
around Portland.
Around Portland. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, at least you're keeping busy, I suppose.
I am totally and completely keeping busy. So,
Yeah. Any prospects that's going to slow down?
no,
No. Okay. Fair
nah.
assessment.
We are still we're after July 1. Everything always pops back up because fiscal year ends for a lot of agencies. And so, as soon as fiscal year ends, July 1, they all want to start trying to book to get more training in by the end of the year. So they
Yeah, they
usually
got to spend that budget money before it goes away.
try to spend it before it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, no
So,
doubt. Our
well,
budget year starts in October, so
oh yeah, well, it varies, but most places are July 1.
let's put
So
it.
it goes like that. But I wanted to open up here real quick and say, man, I appreciate you having me on here, and I have enjoyed everything I've listened to so far. Your first episode about the mountain doesn't care. That's just 100% the truth.
Yeah,
So
it's been a fun experience, I'll be honest.
beautiful. Well, you can see in the background that's the wife's Big Ten sitting up there. You can't. The light is kind of washing it out on the camera for you, but
I see it. It's the same one that I got the picture of this
that's
last
the
fall.
same one you got that picture of. I got him back here a few weeks ago in between trips. I went and picked him up, and I've hung him here in my office shop area temporarily. So a constant reminder, of course.
Yeah, well, I got like Chuck E. Cheese in my house, so I got heads everywhere. But that's just how it goes.
Well, it is what it is. Amazingly, I only have
Hmm.
one actual full mount. Everything else is antlers and Euro mounts and stuff like that. I haven't got but one that I felt like probably a couple of them
Right.
should have been, and I didn't, regretfully. But
Yeah, that's how it goes.
it is.
I'm just doing the best ones nowadays. I did some stuff early on that I probably shouldn't have spent the money on, but whatever.
Memories, man.
So
That's
yeah,
all
that's how it goes. I'm pretty big into the Euro, so I have a whole pile of those laying around too. So
they do some really awesome stuff with the Euro mounts these days. They're just impressive. They look
yeah,
really nice, really classy, I guess you could say.
yeah, I had that one from the Montana buck built with the gunsmith. The taxidermist built a rock wall kind of thing or
Oh,
a boulder,
yeah.
mounted it to the boulder and put some brush and some different stuff with it, made it kind of a habitat for it, which is very cool.
That is, I've kind of got a concept for one. I want to go back and get mounted. It's actually my oldest's, and that was a hunt that we did together, and it's a big eight. It's a really big eight. Big. He may have been 4.5. I don't know. Didn't get him aged. Didn't pay attention. He was a big deer. And unfortunately, waiting to get him to the college to get him mounted there because they have a taxidermy program, and they usually give us opportunities for mounts at cost of material.
Oh,
And
that's cool.
yeah, students do it. So I had meant to take him there, and then we had a freezer go before I could get him to the school. So we have skull cap and antlers, and I'll find a cape someday, and I'm going to
Yeah,
get
I just need a cape.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get him
Just need
done, and
some
then
cape.
I've actually got an old cedar post out of the property where we got him, and I'm going to set him up and do some cool stuff. But I like that natural look, like you talked about with the rocks.
Yeah, it actually turned out pretty good. If I haven't sent you one, I'll send you a picture of it when we get done here.
Cool.
With that in mind, though, we may have a cape available to us come November. Because I'm certainly not taking that back with me. I'll take a skull with back, but I'm not taking a head and a hide.
Well, we'll figure that out. Let's wait till
We find a big buck. We find something that's a decent sized animal, even if it's not a giant, horns. But if it's a decent sized critter, we'll cape him out. No big deal.
there is so many deer right now. It's you drive and you're pretty much just dodging deer.
I can't wait.
Right now on the way here. I saw 2 deer on a pasture between the interstate and the shop, so they're just out and about.
We're just out.
Yeah, we've got right now a lot of rain. There's going to be a ton of nutrition, a lot of grass. If there is a good hay crop, and it looks like there's going to be, then that means there's going to be a good mass crop of acorns in the mountains.
And that'll mean good antler growth too throughout the summer.
Going to mean good antler growth. There's going to be plenty of nutrition.
And then feed in the fall when the acorns drop.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I'm looking forward to it for you. And I had to go to a doctor's appointment Monday, and they said something to the effect of, we'll see you back in 4 months. That's going to be September. And it was like, wait, what? September's in 4 months? Well, that means October's in 5. So
yeah, it's creeping up on us like quickly.
It really is. I just moved my archery tote yesterday, and it kind of thought, it's too early to deal with this. And then you do the math. It's like right now is when I really need to be doing something.
No, it's time. I mean, bear season is 3 weeks from being over. Spring bear here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we don't right now. Spring turkey is kind of the thing, and it's winding down. But
yeah, here too.
I'm still seeing turkeys everywhere. So
I think there's another week. I think it goes to the end of the month here.
I have no idea because I don't hunt turkey. Everybody else does. Everybody else that hunts them is saying they've had a hard year. That they've had
really.
Yeah, haven't had much success with turkeys. In fact, a friend of mine texted me over the weekend. He had been calling a turkey, had a coyote come in, and just went ahead and waxed that coyote at 6 yards.
Yeah, those are kind of fun to do.
Oh, absolutely. He wasn't disappointed that he didn't get a turkey. He was excited that he got the coyote. So
yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't I have you introduce yourself since we sit here and shoot the shit all night long?
Yeah, we could do that easily. Well, Jacob Porter. I don't really know what to say about myself other than I really love this hunting and guns and hunting, man. What else can I say? It's really kind of a lifestyle. So
yeah. So let's talk about guns.
Okay, first. Let's talk about guns first then.
What do you do?
Well, I work on guns. I prefer, honestly, really to build them. The working on with parts availability and things of that nature has gotten kind of less of a focus for me. Time is really tight now, too. So I am like the doctor that's not accepting new patients. Pretty much people call, and unless it's somebody I have done something for previously, I just I send them down the road. And I hate to do that, but it's better than piling stuff up and letting it grow into, a problem where I'm having to do it in 6 months when it should have been done 3 months ago. So
right.
Just trying to kind of do that. So lucky for you, next week, I believe we're going to get started on your pile of parts and see what we can make out of that.
Pile of parts.
You've got boxes stacked up here.
I do. Yeah.
Which that's good.
Sorry, but so talk about your business a little bit.
Well, my real business that makes money is the training for law enforcement, government stuff. That's what keeps me on the road, but that's what keeps the lights on. And of course, it's firearms related. Guess what? But my gunsmithing stuff, I teach it too. So there's.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I'm teaching. That's what I say. Next week is the basic 3-day rifle gunsmithing class. That is an NRA short-term class. So the NRA short-term gunsmithing classes are sponsored by the NRA, and there's 3 community colleges in the U.S. that do those. And Montgomery Community College in North Carolina is one, and of course that's where I graduated when I went to the second gunsmithing school. So again, the running joke there is, I graduated in 2008 and I haven't left yet. So, it's constantly down there. I taught regular semester classes there for about a year and a half, covering for in between in between instructors. They lost an instructor, and they tried to get me to stay full time, and it just wasn't. The move was not going to work. I've got so much
Right.
stuff invested here, property, home, friends, and family. So I didn't want to move. But I go down there and I do those short term classes. They're subject specific, and they're a good opportunity for people that want to learn more about gunsmithing and don't have the time to
Okay.
dedicate to a 2 year program.
I gotcha. So, and then the training side of it, which is how we
Yeah,
got connected some
correct.
years ago.
Yes, sir. And glad we did. That's one thing.
Yeah, no doubt.
One of the unique things about that job is that I've met a lot of really great people. Made a few that turned out to be friends that I've kept up with, like the one I'm staring at on the computer screen here. And,
Through the
through
internet.
the
Thank you, Al
internet,
Gore.
right? That
Ah,
communication. So the internet keeps us. I will say this: you and I sparked a pretty hot bromance right off the bat because of our shared love of the 222 Remington Magnum. And
yeah.
that's
Amazing that there's another one of us in the world.
that's what's so special is there's so few of us that even know that cartridge exists.
Exists.
So yeah,
And to that end on that cartridge, not to go down a deep rabbit hole, but they've created this 22 Creedmoor and 22 XC and all these different
sure.
cartridges and stuff, and they're not getting that much more velocity out of it than I am
No,
out of that 222 mag.
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I think on the 22 Creed, which is basically a 308
Mm-hmm.
cartridge. I mean, 6.5 Creedmoor cartridge neck down, right?
Yeah, pretty
They're
close.
getting like 33 ish out of the 85 and a half grain burger, and I'm getting 3.
I was going to say I know you can easily surpass 3 though.
I could. You got to push it pretty
You
hard. I'd have to play with some powders, but
you have to push it. You'd have to have the barrel length to burn
Mhm,
the powder, but you could get it there. The 222 Rem Mag is just it's an awesome cartridge, and
it is. And the fact I can get brass for it,
brass now.
new brass,
Yeah,
is
I came up with 2 boxes, and I don't even remember how, but I came up with 2 boxes of ammunition, loaded Remington, old yellow and green box ammunition.
love it.
And I took it straight to my cousin. I was like, "You've got a factory 222 Rem mag," and he was just tickled to death to get it.
Tickled pink.
Yeah, but I've got the reamer, so I can build one for myself someday if I get time, and I look forward to it. Just
Well, I happen to have the dummy cartridge,
yep,
so I just need to mail that to you when you're ready.
it's going to be a while, my friend.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But when you're ready, I'll mail you that dummy
Oh
round.
yeah, well,
We can
that'd be great.
chamber it to
Yep.
that. But so talk about hunting then.
Okay, we can talk about hunting.
Yeah, talk about hunting back east.
Yes, sir. Um, I love it. I here, and I don't know about other places. I'm sure in other places it is similar, but being Appalachia and growing up a hillbilly kid, hunting is not just something that you did. It wasn't a hobby. It's a lifestyle, and it is
Right.
absolutely it's a religion, so to speak. There is such a deep part of the culture that revolves around hunting that a lot of people. Well, I'm going to plan my week. I'm going to go hunt for a week, and that's all I'm going to do. Here,
Hmm.
all my life when I wasn't traveling and running here and there, it's like, oh, get out of work. It's 3:30. There's time to go hunt. We've got 2 hours of light. We're going to go sit at the edge of a field, or we're going to walk into the woods somewhere. We're going to be hunting Saturday, Sunday, every legal day. You're out there and you're hunting. Uh, you know, Here we used to get hunter ed in schools. We used to be season. Oddly, season always opened on Mondays. Mondays, the county Monday is off. Opening day of deer season, off from school because nobody's going to be there anyway.
Yep.
And of course, those days are over and things have changed, but we still have a huge hunting population. And there's still a lot of folks that take it as seriously as I do, which I'm glad. Um, but as I travel, I talk to other people, and they're like, well, I used to hunt, or there's always some excuse why they kind of quit hunting. And I think that's pretty depressing to me because I don't know what it'll
Right.
take to get me out of the woods. Definitely matured in my hunting, back in the day.
Sure.
killed anything that walked. My first deer was a big doe, and and then I had a dry spell because hunting has changed here a lot because we have such a much higher deer population than we have ever had in the past. Years ago, when I was doing the gun shop thing, I had this old guy, and he had hunted the very first legal whitetail season in Virginia. Deer season had gone away. You couldn't kill deer. There were so few that when they finally got enough to open a season, he had gone hunting, used a 6.5 Japanese rifle that he found soft nose ammunition for. He killed a 6 point buck.
Wow.
And when he took it to the store for the check-in, there was a mile of cars parked on the side of the road of people just pulling up to see the deer because they'd never seen a buck. They'd never seen an antlered buck.
When was this?
That was way back in the 30s time frame. I have looked and tried to find out when Virginia's very first whitetail season was, but there towards the late 1800s, market hunters cleaned them out. They
Cleaned them out,
just absolutely decimated them. There were no seasons, no bag limits, and they just cleaned out the population. So now, I mean, you can't move without there's a deer in the way. And I have heard now. None of our stuff will be published till July 1, but I have heard that we are getting anywhere from 4 to 7 weeks of rifle season in certain counties, one of which is mine, simply because they're going to try to get the population down. And of course, I would say the last, at least a half of that is going to be antlerless only, which I don't have a problem with, but it's just going to be, if people want to keep the population steady and doing well, you're just going to have to thin some down because there's so many. And I'm guilty.
Right.
I used to shoot, 3 or 4 or 5, 6 deer a year. And now this past year I killed one, and I could have killed bunches of them, bunches and bunches of does, small bucks. And one property I hunt, I elected to take a 6-pointer just to stack in the freezer. And my wife was killing so many, I didn't need to, I felt like. But I think this year we're going to have to change tactics a little bit, and I think we're going to have to thin some does out. So,
Well, when I come, we were talking about this offline, but when I come, my plan is to fill my doe tags.
no, well, we've got
And
options. We've got options to get you on the does without question.
yeah,
And you'll probably see lots of bucks. It's just going to be a matter of, are you going to see one that you would like?
right.
Of course, the private land and the options we have for that are good and possible as far as decent bucks go. But I know you want to get out and you really want to hit the big woods and
A little bit, yeah.
get into the mountains and really check that scene out. So I'm excited for that because, of course, I've got several friends that they literally only hunt the national forest. Other than going and taking a doe or two for the freezer, they're literally just they're out there day in and day out putting the work on trying to pull the big boys in.
Yeah. It just takes one, right? I'm not gonna do the second buck tag I'm gonna do the management on the does for sure.
Sure.
I think
Oh
that would be
yeah.
fantastic. That's part of the fun time of that.
Oh, it is.
A little less work time, a little more fun time on that when I come out.
It is, and
Yeah.
I've had a lot of fun hunts where we killed does.
Yeah.
Again, it comes back to the culture, and part of the hunting culture here is sharing that with other people and friends, and
100%.
just getting out there and enjoying the time in the woods and the time with the people that you're hunting with, and so that's a big deal, and I'm looking forward to you coming and hunting.
Yeah. I'm gonna come and bring some cold boxes and freeze what I can, and then what I can't take, it's gonna go to good use for somebody else.
Oh, we'll make use of. Don't you worry about that, and we'll get as much
Yeah.
out to you as we can. I mean, I'll be back out, out in that direction, and I can always bring them
Oh yeah.
with me. So,
Yeah, for sure. But I'm gonna help out where I can too on there. So on that, when I come out there, I'm gonna be hunting with the muzzleloader, and the reason why I wanted to bring you on today specifically is not just to talk hunting, because I wanted to talk about your gunsmithing stuff as it pertains to muzzleloaders of all shapes and sizes,
of all
and
shapes,
kind of wanted to put together a muzzleloading 101 kind of conversation for those folks out in the West that are starting to maybe look at this as an option and kind of what some of their options are?
Well, we talked about, and I've done a little research on the flintlock season in Montana, for instance, and
Yeah,
I kind of understand on that. If you get a regular elk tag, but you don't get to fill it, then in the late muzzleloader you have the option to do the flintlock hunt. So I
correct.
don't think that's how it was explained to me initially, and so I misunderstood. But I mean, regardless, it's an opportunity. And I do like traditional muzzle loading. I actually wanted to hunt with a flintlock this past year that I was in the process of building, but I just didn't get it quite done enough to be able to do that. This year will be different. I will have a flintlock available to be able to shoot and hunt with, rather. But for folks getting into it out there, I know, interestingly, you have laws that I really, really love out in the West with regards to hunting. And a couple of them are, you can ride around on the road, and as long as you're not shooting on somebody's private property you don't have, permission to be on, then you can do that. Here, you cannot hunt. You can't take a motorized vehicle on national or public forest land whatsoever. And I think that really reduces opportunities for a great many people. And I kind of get
Yeah.
it. But on the flip side of the coin, we're very liberal with our muzzle loading, so we can hunt with a smokeless muzzle loader. Whereas out in your neck of the woods, you can't do that in
Oh,
muzzle
that's
loading
correct.
only season.
Right.
And
You can hunt them with general rifle, but not in muzzle loading only season.
correct. But that doesn't mean you can't build the rifle and shoot the Blackhorn 209. You could really shoot any of the smokeless alternatives that you wanted. You just wouldn't get the performance, obviously, and you would be back to
Right.
the job of cleaning thoroughly with the smoke with the black powder substitutes. But and we've talked about this in the past. One of the things that I would say to folks out west that might want to hunt in the muzzleloader season with a muzzleloader, if you play with it and practice with it and you experiment, you can shoot much further than the golden 100 yards that everybody's concerned with an inline muzzleloader.
Oh, yeah.
There's tons of options out there now. I know that CVA is doing one that's set up, 300-400 yard shots with Blackhorn 209 and some of the other stuff. It's not set up for smokeless, but it is set up for longer ranges with the smokeless alternatives. So
Yeah. And so Idaho is a little different in that we're kind of, we call the old Northwest rules.
Mhm.
We used to be Idaho, Oregon, and Washington had the same rules, and some of that's changed. But Idaho's still pretty restrictive on you can hunt with an inline, but it has to be a percussion cap or a musket cap. So you can't use any type of center fire, 209
the
primer
.209s,
or
yeah, yeah,
so the Blackhorn's kind of out
right.
here
With those, yeah. But I know,
because we can't get enough ignition.
no, not at all. I want to say though, maybe Utah. Utah, you can
Yeah.
hunt with a 209,
Yep.
which is good. So it really it's odd because it varies so much state to state out here.
State to state. Yeah.
Pretty much on the East Coast and down south, muzzleloader is a muzzleloader, and there is no definition. Now, back in the old days, I remember this when I was much younger. It was side lock only. Inlines weren't allowed at all.
Yeah, I remember those days.
And then they said, well, there's a lot of inlines and a lot of opportunity for people to hunt. So, well, we'll go ahead and let the inlines become a thing. But you can't use scope. Still couldn't have a scope on a muzzleloader. It
Right.
wasn't traditional. And then finally, enough of these old guys that couldn't see anymore said, well, I can't hunt at all if I don't have a scope. And at that time, the population of deer was coming up too. So every time the population goes up, the hunting regulations get substantially more liberal with what they will allow.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I've heard rumors that we are going to be one of those states that will allow straight wall cartridges in muzzleloading season. And I'm just a straight wall cartridge is not a muzzleloader.
No,
And
it's a repeating arm.
yeah, I'm not real thrilled with that concept. I mean, if they do, they do. There's nothing I can do about it. But I think we have the first 2 weeks of November as our early muzzle loader. Then after that, traditionally it was 2 weeks of rifle season. My other fear is, are they going to use the first 2 weeks of our early muzzle loading season and say it's part of this long rifle season? And that may be. So we'll know July 1 what they're going to do. So,
What the regs are going to look like. Yeah.
what they're going to look like. Again, I really do hope that they do not go with the straight wall thing, and I'll probably get some hate for saying that from anybody I know that listens to this, but that's my opinion. I have had,
Well, it's a repeating arm. I guess if you're shooting a Ruger #1,
and there's other states.
right?
I think Indiana says it can be straight wall for muzzle loader, but it has to be a single shot. So
Okay.
yeah,
Well,
and I was like,
that's a little more
that's a
palatable.
little better, yeah.
Yeah, a little more palatable in that. And I'm kind of a purist, as you know, as far as some of that stuff. I mean, I shoot an inline, but I also have some primitive,
Sure.
um, some side lock. I don't have a flintlock. I'd like to do that someday, but
Wow, that'll be your next
uh,
build is a flintlock.
yeah, that's kind of the direction I'm headed. But based on this, why hunt with a muzzleloader? I mean, what's the draw to it?
I'll tell you what, I got to be honest, it's one of my favorites. I have so much fun in muzzleloading season. I guess the technical side of me appreciates and likes the process. Got to measure some
Hmm.
powder, got to stuff a bullet on top of it. Um, it takes sometimes you get into one that it takes a little bit more of a challenge to actually get it to shoot the way you want it to shoot, things of that nature.
Absolutely.
And so they can be a little more finicky, which frustrates people who aren't tinkerers and don't want to listen
Hmm.
to advice from other folks. Um, but I'll tell you, some of the best, most fun hunts I have had have been with a muzzleloader. So
Yeah, I agree.
hands down, that's probably my favorite this year included. And I hunted some with a smokeless. I hunted with an inline, and then I had finally, of course, built myself a single shot smokeless, which I told you about. And I really enjoyed it because I didn't have to clean it. It ended up when I finally figured out what was going on, it shot unbelievably well, and thank goodness
Yeah.
for people that make bullets and like to talk. So that 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 saved me quite a bit because I was about to get frustrated. But I don't know. It's also with the early season. It's always been first two weeks, so you've got that kind of golden time of November. Still have
Hmm.
leaves on typically, and it just gives you that opportunity to get out before it typically gets bitterly cold, like rifle season can be. And then when it comes back in, that's the beauty. Into the second weeks, usually second Saturday of December, it comes in and you have 3 weeks of late season. And so if the weather isn't totally miserable, you can get out and just have a load of fun hunting. And of course, the challenge is always there because you have to keep in mind you got one opportunity. And so you
Yes.
have to work
Make it
you've
count.
got to make it count. So that actually, I think, probably helped me a lot. Uh, Build that patience that it takes with hunting.
Mhm.
I'll be honest, I've probably harvested more bucks in early muzzleloading season than I have with a rifle, hands down, and definitely some of my better bucks. So,
I can tell you with authority that I've done better, and I hunt, quite a bit, but my success has actually gone up since I switched to hunting strictly with a muzzleloader. And I'm hunting in the general seasons with black powder in Idaho as
yes,
well.
sir.
And I've done pretty well over the last few years with it. And in the West, especially with non-residents, is kind of really the thing too. But even resident tags, and to some degree, there is a lot more opportunity to draw tags in places like Utah,
Mhm.
Montana with the heritage season, right? Because it's flintlock, and so it's any side lock muzzleloader, right?
Mhm.
And so you've got those seasons, and then you've got places like Arizona and New Mexico who have specific muzzleloader tags that you can pull as a resident or non-resident. And then Idaho has what they call controlled hunts. So it's outside of their general tags,
Right.
and they've bull elk, cow elk, deer of all shapes and sizes, antelope. And antelope in the West is actually in some places very hard to draw.
It is.
But it is, I mean, it's surprisingly hard to draw. You're looking at six or draw rates. of 2 to 3%, maybe 4% in Idaho with a rifle tag, but you can find tags that are into the teens
Right.
of percentages for draw with a muzzleloader, which you've now in effect doubled or even tripled potentially your draw odds. So that's kind of the draw to it for a lot of people in the
Mhm.
West. And unfortunately, we're having this conversation, and more people might be getting interested
Yeah.
in it, and I'll be public enemy number one. But whatever.
Well, I don't think you can hurt us as much as that show, the hunting public, hurt us, because it's, you mentioned out of staters being a thing in the West. It was very rare to find anybody hunting from out of state in our area, unless they knew somebody, his family coming for
Right.
Thanksgiving. Nowadays, you can drive through the mountain, what we call the mountain. You'll see Florida tags, Ohio tags in other states where they want to hunt. They
Mhm.
just don't have quite the season and liberal season we do. So they've watched these guys running around, and I like their show. So if any of them,
I do too. They're knuckleheads, and they
yeah,
make me laugh.
I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not really cussing them, but at the same time I am. But yeah, we've seen an uptick here. Not that it really hurts us, but it's interesting.
At the end of the day, everybody's a non-resident somewhere.
Sure. Oh,
I don't
yeah.
I don't have the problem with them, and quite frankly, in a lot of cases, especially in the West, I'm not I can't speak for the East per se, but in the West for sure, they pay the bill.
Yeah. Well, see, unfortunately, economics comes into play, and so if you're paying $600 for an elk tag because you're out of state, whereas a resident pays, 100, whatever a
Mhm.
resident pays, there's just a lot more money in the out of state folks. And then that's, the travel,
Right.
lodging, all that stuff. Just,
All that stuff, and Idaho allocates 10% of its tags to non-residents. I think Montana and Wyoming do the same.
I can only imagine that has to be probably about what it is. No question.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. You look at states like Utah, who just their tag prices for non-residents have just gone through the roof.
Yeah, well, I think my spike elk tag for the one elk hunt that I've been on, it was over $600 for a spike tag, and I didn't really feel too bad paying that for it, because it was an opportunity to go hunt elk. It was over the counter, so I wasn't going to complain. But I'll tell you one thing that surprised me out there, though. Um, People were really friendly, and when I met folks that were local, or at least semi-local, they would say, oh, well, it's been a rough year, but if you go over here you might have some luck or whatever. There was no, get out of my spot. A friend of mine
Yeah.
here, for instance, friend of mine, and I know you've heard us talk about him at Shot. So if Hammer is listening ever, he's gonna recognize. He went down to Ohio. He lives in Pennsylvania, but he somehow got hooked up with a hunt to go down, and they found a spot. They put stands up and hunted maybe a day. They went back, and the straps on their stands had been cut, and basically it was a get out of here. This is not your spot to hunt, and it was public land, or whatever they had access to. But it was just, no, there was an absolute attitude of, go home.
Mm, that's not good.
That's not good. No,
That's not good.
that's not good.
Well, I hate to hear that kind of stuff, but like I say, the non-residents pay the bill.
Sure.
I don't,
Oh yeah.
and I'm pretty willing to help some people out. If somebody asks me some questions, I will point them in a direction. And if they've spent some money to come out here and do this stuff, you should probably go home with something. That's fine. And those tags are put out there for a reason, because they have enough. Those tags, they have enough numbers to support that,
Mm-hmm.
and they know what their harvest success rates look like, and that's generally pretty good. I mean, pretty consistent across the board.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I don't think elk hunt. I don't. I got to go back and look, but I think in Idaho, general rifle elk tag, I think is 8% success.
Oof. That's
Seriously, I mean, and there's a lot of reasons for it, but some of it is because all the guys just ride the roads and they're out hanging out and having a good time, and that's fine,
sure.
right?
Sure.
Um, but you look at success rates across the board in the West, and they're not great, but for a lot of general tags. But if you put your nose to the grindstone, even with black powder, you can be successful.
And I saw that. I saw elk. It's not like I didn't see any elk. I did see elk. In fact, the first morning of our first day on that hunt, our guide, quote unquote, he called in a 5x5. Of course, we didn't have a tag for it, and it was like 23 yards. I was sitting here, I was just sitting there watching. All I could do was watch him. He's looking for whatever's been bugling
Yeah.
at him, and I'm just sitting here, with a 7 millimeter ram mag, and we've been told about, oh, you may have to shoot real far. You better bring a Magnum, and so I went out and got that 7 mag just for that hunt, and it's like I could have killed him with a popcorn kernel and a slingshot. I mean, he was right there.
Yeah.
So, but back to muzzle loaders before we continue on about hunting some more. I think
Rabbit holes.
rabbit holes, and it's
Yeah.
easy to do. It's easy to do. I think anybody that has never done it needs to be exposed to it to see how much fun it is. And I say that because gosh, I think it was when I was a hunter ed instructor, my wife and I, years ago, we went to some training events for hunter educators, and some of the events had muzzle loaders, and they were side lock muzzle loaders.
Oh,
It was just get out there, and they would show them how to shoot them, how to load them, how to do everything. And as soon as people would do this, and then they'd shoot it, a birch, the 12-inch plate at 25 yards and hit it, because there's a kind of a concept, I think, of a lot of people that, well, it's old technology. You can't hit anything with it. It's not accurate. And then, first timers pick it up, a side lock, and they shoot, hit that metal plate, hear it ring, and it's just smiles everywhere. I had more fun than
right.
I thought I would. And so I think people who aren't muzzleloader hunters, but they're hunters, I think they need to just go try it. Go find somebody with one and say, hey, can we go shoot? I want to learn something about this. I want to give it a try. I think you'll
Yep.
find it's really, 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 it's fun. And I'll tell you, I would say too about muzzle loaders, it's a much more fulfilling and rewarding, because it's like I had one chance, I had one
One.
shot to make this happen. That dude walked out, and here he is in the back of the truck, and that feels good. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, I've had one nightmare hunt with a muzzleloader. It was heartbreaking. And other than that, after that experience, taking my time loading it to make sure things were clean, everything was put together right. After that, I haven't had many issues. So, some of the horror stories I hear about, well, I did this and I did that, and it didn't work, and it popped a cap, wouldn't go off at all.
Sure.
I have a feeling a lot of that is a lack of cleaning, care, maintenance,
Maintenance.
and attention to detail when they loaded
Correct.
it. So,
Yep.
as soon as I had that first heartbreaking actual hunting experience with a muzzle loader, I started listening more. And had a guy, he was like, man, after I've cleaned mine and I oil it, I put it up, I'll take alcohol, swab the bore out, I'll clean everything and
Hmm.
degrease all that oil out before I load it for hunting
Yeah.
season, or the first morning, because that way I know it's dry. There's no oil to contaminate it.
Yeah.
The hole is clear for the flash hole, etc. And
Yeah.
I adopted those tactics, and my success rate
Yeah.
went up.
Went up. No kidding. Yeah. So, and I use carbon cleaner, and then like in Berryman's B12, so
Hmm.
it doesn't have any chlorine in it,
Right.
so it doesn't screw up the seasoning in the barrel.
Correct.
Um, and then instead of just soap and water, I mean, I know that's everybody's trick, but I actually clean my stuff to the nth degree.
Sure.
The patches are coming out clean
Hmm.
when I get them, and then I'm using for the flash holes and stuff. I'm using pipe cleaners and picks, and making sure it's all good to go. I mean, you can damn near eat off this thing when I put it away, because I want it to go boom
Sure.
when I pull the trigger. I tell you a funny story though. Uh, when you talked about attention to detail, I shot that elk here in Idaho last December in that muzzleloader tag I had, and I got in a hurry on a second shot. I already hit this cow the first time, and she'd laid down, and so I snuck up and went around the knoll and popped up just to put another round there just to finish it off. And I had left everything in my pack, and I'd left my pack down the mountain because I belly crawled to get within range of this thing out in the open of 200-300 head of elk on this side of this hill. So I had 2 rounds, 2 shots, the one that was in the gun and the one that was in my binocular pouch. Shot the first round, got in a hurry, thought I had everything loaded up. and it went boom,
Mm-hmm.
but I forgot the bullet.
That forgot the bullet.
So I have now used up my only primer and all my powder,
Yep.
and I have a bullet still in the pouch.
I'm laughing with you, buddy.
Yeah.
It's
So,
easy.
well,
It's easy in the heat of the moment. That's probably the downfall of muzzle loading is if you don't connect on that first shot, or you think you need a follow up shot for whatever reason.
yep.
The excitement of the moment, it's easy to make mistakes, overlook stuff
And
like
that's
that. Or
exactly what happened. And I was like, oh man.
yeah,
So I had to run down the hill now, left everything, my gun, left everything in place, run down the hill, grab my pack, run back up the hill, and do this over again, So, but that was on me.
yeah,
Funny.
it was, and it's just one of those. You still connected. You got the elk,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
but it was a lesson to learn. It really was.
Lesson learned. Yep.
But going to the smokeless, specifically to the smokeless. I knew Savage had made their ones and twos and smokeless, and I knew that some people were making smokeless muzzle loaders. And I'd read a little bit about them, seen some other rifle builders would do one here and there. And I had never really given it a lot of thought myself. It was like, that's really cool, but
No.
probably really expensive, et cetera, et cetera. And one day I'd done a lot of gun work for this fella, and God knows he may listen to this too. But he says my brother may be calling you about a smokeless muzzleloader. He's got a Savage, and he may want it Cerakoted. I said, okay, well, just tell him, holler at me, and we'll get together and I'll help him out. And then I see him one evening over the weekend. My wife and I are at the brewery, and he just comes walking up. And I knew him, but I didn't know him really to talk to him. He
Right.
starts talking to me. He's like, I got this Savage and I want to do this, but I'm not sure I'm going to keep it. So I don't know if I want to Cerakote it. And I was like, well, okay, that's up to you. And he said, if I get the stuff, can you build a smokeless? And I said, well, I haven't done it, but I'm sure that we can. You need to, just let me know what's involved, etc. He pretty much showed up and had kind of like you, massive pile of parts. And he had really put a lot of effort into studying, reading,
Mm-hmm.
had done his homework, and he spent the money on the good components. And so once
Reminds me of somebody else I know.
reminds me of several people I know, actually, including you. But we went to a great deal of trouble. So I sat down with all this stuff. I started doing some of my own research. I actually talked to Hankins, of course. He did the ignition system with the Hankins plug. And
Yeah.
with regard to Hankins, I've read and heard people say, he's kind of a ill-tempered thing, and I don't like to try to talk to him and all this. I've talked to him 3 or 4 times on the phone. He's always answered my questions, and he's taken my order instead of telling me, put your order in online. Yeah, I'll take your order over the phone. Takes credit card.
Yeah. I've had great success talking to him.
Guy was great. And so I asked him a couple questions, and I went on about my business, and I reverse engineered. He'll sell a print, but I don't want to spend $20 on a piece of paper. And so I reverse engineered and sat down, drew some of my own little drawings, and took a lot of measurements, and did it about 20 times before I ever chucked it in the lathe. And once I did it, it went really well. And so I put it all together. It turned out gorgeous, a little on the heavy side. It was one of the big Brux barrels.
Oh yeah.
Big break on it in a Bell and Carlson stock. So it was beefy. But now this fella carrying it, you have to understand, he makes me look very small. He's very tall, and he can tote that thing. And what was funny with that rifle, I had no idea really how it was going to perform. He showed me several groups, great groups at 100 yards, 3-shot groups. And he was texting me while he was at his shooting on his farm. And then I get a picture texted to me, and it's of a steel plate, and the impact is at the bottom of the plate. And I was like, what in the hell just happened? I was worried, something's gone wrong.
Yeah. Like, oh God, what
Lord,
happened
what in
here?
the world
Yeah.
has happened? He said, well, that's my little gong at 300 yards. I just held on at the top, and know now I've got about 13 and a half, 14 inches of drop at 300 yards with this bullet. I was like, oh,
No, that's
okay.
he knows what his maximum point blank is now.
He knows what his maximum point blank, and
He does.
I suddenly felt so much better. So the first year he hunted with it, it was, first 2 weeks of early muzzleloader, he never put it up. He just carried it throughout rifle season because it's loaded. He knows it shoots. He's got a million other guns, but he hunted with that muzzleloader.
Right.
He ended up connecting on a really nice buck. I finally got a picture. He's like, man, she finally did her work today. And it was a great buck. And then fast forward here the next year, well, his brother shows back up with his own pile of parts. Of course, he's got to outdo his brother. So it was the carbon fiber wrap barrel, titanium action. I mean, this rig is just, I sat there and just kind of mind boggled at this pile of great components. Ended up having to send that out in your direction to Idaho, the company that was making him a carbon fiber ultralight stock. They'd never done that type of action before because that was a Pierce action titanium.
Okay.
And so they sent back this extremely lightweight. I told him, I said, I actually cussed him for that one because you bark it, and there's, even with the brake on it, it was substantially higher recoil. But I know they've talked several times about, he was mentioning going somewhere out of the country with it. It shoots really, really good. In the first year, we got it actually done after season. He hunted late season with it, was the only opportunity. And I don't want to get too graphic on a podcast, but when he sent me a picture of the wound channel on this big doe, I was a bit shocked, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
I was totally and completely taken aback by the devastation. Now, it was a behind the shoulder, so he didn't ruin much meat, but I was shocked. And since then, those two were kind of my starting point, and since then, I built several more off of bolt rifle action, so they have the opportunity to run the higher pressures, run that. One of my guys that I built one for, he was a PRS shooter for a long time, really, really accomplished long range shooter. He's very much a tinkerer and a developer, so he has no problem. And I asked him one day, I said, well, what are you shooting for group? He said, I don't know. I just know that, I see the paint peeling at 100 yards. It's shooting really good. I'm just shooting basically one paint spot. And I said, well, how is it done at long range? He said, I don't know. I dialed in the dope based on the velocities I got at 100 yards. I held my dope, dialed it in at 600, and made impact on a 12-inch gong. So I just, okay. All right. I finished up another similar build, 700 for a completely different fella this past year, but he's the same. I've done several centerfire rifles for him, and he is just one of the most meticulous hand loaders I think I personally know. And the performance he's gotten out of the centerfire rifles has just been, I'm impressed that the rifle turned out that good. Of course, I just built it. He's the guy. He's the driver. I'm the mechanic. But when I got his muzzleloader done, he ordered several different bullets, his sizing die, and then he started sending me pictures of groups. I think he ended up killing 2 with it in season, and one was well over 300 yards. Amazing shot. So I had tried to get some of my notes together before we did this, and then kind of ran out of time and whatnot. But I was gonna look at, get these guys and go back through and read their bullets. And for the most part, the guys with the bolt rifles are shooting H4198 or IMR 4198.
Right.
N120 is what I shoot because I'm shooting a break action, so I can't run quite the high pressures. N110 is a good one, but I got another. Well, I think it's the fellow that I finished up the one for this past year. He's shooting N120 in the bolt rifle. He's just running more of it. And he couldn't find the H4198, and I'd given him some IMR 4198 that I had kicking around, and he seemed to just have a lot of success with everything he did. So I'm fascinated.
Yeah, and
I'm fascinated by him.
I'm gonna be running 8208 XBR,
Mm-hmm.
and I have some pressures and load and some data that I got on one of the forums, actually, a guy that's pretty good with it, and he gave me some starting and ending points. Do not go above this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And that's
message received.
yeah, oh yeah, and that's the thing about the smokeless community right now is there's just so much more information than there was previously,
Yeah.
and of course
People have been pretty helpful, truly.
they have. That's another one where it's like I'm really surprised that there is much open source kind of information out there. And of course, Hankins kind of led he was the pioneer in the smokeless thing, and people would complain, but that was early on. He's kind of developing this stuff. He's doing the work. Let him get the work done, and
Yeah.
and so other people have kind of followed in his steps and done a lot of great research. I Here I am talking about building flintlocks and talking about smokeless muzzleloaders too. So it's completely opposite ends of the spectrum. But I think whichever you go with is it's another great opportunity to hunt, be in the woods, and have a lot of fun.
Yeah. And so, like a lot of things, especially in the hunting and shooting world, etc., once you kind of get your hands on one, it becomes a bit of a obsession. We'll call it that.
Well,
So,
I'll tell you, I'm not going to take offense at your use of the word obsession because I'm completely an obsessive person, without a doubt. And most of us who tinker with this stuff really, really are. But
yeah.
I'll tell you what fascinates me, I think, the most about it is simply that it's new, it's different. There's been 5 million different Magnum cartridges around to shoot long range. They're still coming out with new Creedmoor variants, like the 22 Creedmoor that you mentioned, and it's just like none of that fascinates me anymore. It's like you're reinventing the wheel. With a smokeless muzzleloader, this is real territory where there's been very little done by very few people, and
Right.
it leaves a great deal of work to you. So it appeals to that nature of
Yeah.
of let's play with this and see where we can go with
Right.
it. Because
And I think that once you get your hands on one, let's just say somebody goes out and says, I want to try this, and they go get them a CVA Optima, for example, an inline or brake action, right? And I have one, and they go out in the woods and have some, figure it out and have some success with it. It snowballs into, well, God, I really like that one with the 30-inch barrel.
yeah.
Now suddenly they've got an Acura, LR.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sitting here
That,
looking at a CVA box with a Scout barrel in it and 4570, and I didn't tell the guy no. I feel like I should have, even though I started it. He brought me a Remington 721, lost the bolt out of it, and of course I had a 721 bolt laying around and whatnot. But by the time I got all that done and picked it up, he's a talker. So he sat there and was talking to me, and he kind of knows the guy that I built the smokeless muzzleloader for, and he asked me questions. And
here we go.
Yeah, well, I said, you're looking, a couple $3,000 to really build a good high end one like he did.
A good one, yeah.
I said, but some people will get one of these break open 4570s, and I'm like, $100, $150 worth of labor, and you order a breech plug and some modules, and you can have smokeless muzzleloader. He's like, I can shoot regular white powder. I said, yeah, there's several variations or several formulas of that powder you can shoot, etc. Well, hell, he comes back to pick up the 721 and came in with the Scout box, and he was like, I want you to go ahead and do that for me. And it's like, okay, I needed more work, but all right, well, here you go.
All right, like a hole in the head. That's fine. Those guys with the brake opens are getting 2,600 feet per second out of some pretty heavy bullets.
I'm shooting, oh gosh, I'd have to get up and go get the box. Not Furies. Maybe they are Furies. Yeah, they're Furies up in Michigan.
Yeah, I have some of those too. Yep.
That guy was really, really super helpful. I wanted to try the Furies, and I was kind of looking for one of the no size bullets, because where I converted an H&R 4570, those barrels are not super consistent. And so I was just really hesitant, but I called him up and I said, listen, I'm having a few issues with the different bullets I've tried. I want to try some of yours. Right. And he counseled me a little bit, and he said, well, have you tried the blue Sabots? And I said, or Sabos, sorry. I'm redneck. So he says, have you tried those? And I said, I sure have, and it's not made a lot of difference. And he said, well, what loader are you running? And I said, well, I'm running whatever I was shooting within 120. I want to say it was in the 55 grain range, maybe even a little higher at first. He said, well, I think that's your problem. He said, you're probably pushing with that N120 what those sabos will do. So why don't you try backing it off? I said, well, you know what? I'll give that a try. And the guy was so nice about everything. I ended up ordering more bullets and more sabos from him just because he was so cool. And
Yeah.
as soon as I got him, I backed it off. And literally the moment I backed it off, the group shrank. And I was like, well, if that worked good, let's try another grain or two. And brought it back just a little more. And, 3/4 of an inch with sabos. And I'm like,
Yeah.
holy crap, this is it.
This is it. And so those Furies are the only bullets that I'm shooting out of one of my guns that aren't made by Parker.
Mm-hmm.
And I ordered him. I talked to him too, and I ordered the Fury bullets for the CVA with the little plastic disc on the bottom of them, because they're the 49.495, right?
Yep.
And he goes, same thing. He goes, you're pushing them too hot. He back off your load a little bit and try this and try that and this and that and the other. And I did. And I'm still getting just shy of 1700. This is that little 26-inch,
Yeah.
Optima.
Right.
Getting almost 1700 feet per second out of that 285 grain full bore bullet.
And that's respectable.
Just at 3/4 minute.
I mean, for the average hunter and even out west, I mean, that's a great hunting load, multi-purpose.
No, yeah, it's perfect for the Northwest season, because it's got to be exposed to the elements. It's got to be a musket cap. It's got to be loose powder, and it's got to be black powder or a variant, right? It's got to be a full bore bullets. All the stuff that goes into it. Right?
So I forget you all can't use the sabos either. It's got to be full bore.
Well, that changed this year.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations.
Yeah, so now. Yeah, so now you can use the sabos, but I already have a load developed for this gun that's a full bore bullet. Why would I change it?
There's no reason to change that. That would be folly to change.
Yeah, because I go to the range and we talk about tinkering. I'll go to the range with an actual notebook, people,
with lines on the paper,
with lights on it and a pen, and I'll write down every single round and every single shot and what it was, what it did. I mean, all that data, and then I'll go back through and then we'll pick the best of them and then go back out and do it again. And I get pretty good results out of that. Out of even black powder, like true loose black powder, full bore bullet with a musket cap, running. And these are all hand weight, right? These are all by weight, not by volume, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm getting standard deviations of around 20 to 25 feet per second
out of a muzzleloader.
Out of a muzzleloader.
Out of a muzzleloader. Mm-hmm. You can't really argue with that.
You can. It's and so when a gun is good, it's basically an open sight gun. Mm-hmm. I'm getting 3/4 of a minute with the thing. I'll take that all day long.
All day long.
And I love doing it, and it's become my primary form. And I was going to ask you kind of the same thing. What's your favorite one of these to hunt with, and why?
Well, I'll be honest. I have never put a lot of money into the fancy inlines for regular powder. And the reason is because the less expensive stuff like the CVA Wolf, some of the, one I ended up trading around and got a Night American when Night was still a muzzleloading thing. And with 90 grains of loose powder and a 240 grain Hornady and a Sabo, 100 yards, you were talking about an inch and a quarter. And that was amazing back then. And this has been a few years ago. But the beauty to me for like the CVA, the Wolves, the lesser expensive ones, once the kids started hunting and wanting to hunt with a muzzleloader, it would be tough to buy, $3 or $4, $500 or $600 muzzleloaders, where I can go get $3 or $4 $150 muzzleloaders that shoot really, really well. One thing I would give the industry, CVA especially, credit with is that you can pretty much pick up a muzzleloader, throw 2 pellets in it for 100 grains worth of powder charge, and pick up about any power belt or Federal or Hornady bullet in a blister pack, load it, and with a little bit of tinkering, you can shoot really well at 100 yards. And
Yeah.
so,
Really well, actually. And it's reminiscent of Savage
mhm.
when Savage came out with the 110 with their AccuTrigger. Seriously,
Yeah, you're
that
right.
was
It's a
back in the
great
day when
comparison. It's a great comparison.
when yeah, Remington 700 was shooting minute and a half, and you could get this Savage under a minute for
Yeah.
$400.
And when you talk about, and I kind of feel bad when I say, well, I hunt with a really cheap regular muzzle loader, because if you come tell me you're hunting with a Savage Axis or a Remington 710 budget bolt rifle, I'm going to say mean things to you. For the
Yeah.
most part, I get it. They hunt well, and if your focus
Mhm.
is only hunting, fine.
Great.
That fine. Because I'm a gun guy, I can't go that route myself. But if you're literally just the hunter, $300, $400 center fire rifle with $100 scope, you're going to
Right.
kill all the deer you'll ever want to kill with it.
So like I said, same with that CVA Optima that I still get out of the safe for Idaho only seasons every year because it's tried and true. It's cheaper than hell, but I can't argue the result.
No, you
And I don't care what happens to it.
well, see, that's it. Is they're basically you're buying the Walmart vacuum cleaner when you buy one.
Yep.
If something really goes wrong with it, you're not fixing it. They won't really come off of any parts. One thing I can also say is, since you do have to clean them, they're really easy. You pop the hinge and pull the breech
Mhm.
plug out with your hand, as long as you've kept some lube
Kept it
on the
clean.
threads and kept it clean. You pop it out with your hand, and in no time you've got it cleaned and scrubbed and ready to go. So
Yeah.
that aspect, it's hard to argue. Hard to argue.
But anyway, you get into your side locks, and now you can get into some serious money
You can
on some of these
you
guns.
can get
I
into
mean,
all kinds of money.
yeah.
People don't realize there is a whole community of muzzleloading folk.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of in that community, at least on the outside edge. And I'll be honest, I'm getting ready to retake a flintlock class this year in July. We switched locks
Oh,
this year to a new lock that we didn't use last year. Well, the lock for a flint lock, real high quality, about $350 for that lock. And we've modified it. So I ended up sending it to a guy to have a very faint angle cut on the bolster. So that drove the price up more. It's going to be real easy to say that you can sink all the money into any type of side lock you want. And these guys that shoot the competitions,
hmm.
you're talking about like a 12-pound barrel with a stock and a flintlock attached to it. And they
Right.
walk out and do those bench rest championships, and there's just a ton of money in it. Uh, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's neater. It's neat. I mean, so you've got all these different things out there, and then then you progress into the smokeless, which is kind of and that's a whole other animal.
Completely different animal. And when you get it, it's funny because, and I'm sure you've encountered these guys, the super traditional hunters. It's flint only.
Hmm.
They'll talk crap on the guy with a percussion cap.
Side lock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then they'll gang up on somebody that is hunting with an inline, and then all three of them will gang up on the guy hunting with a bolt action smokeless. So
Right.
it's kind of funny to listen to
You,
the to them go back and
you should
forth.
have seen the yeah. You should have seen the looks I got hunting with a muzzleloader during the rifle season in North Idaho this past year. It was pretty funny.
Well, and it was one thing you had mentioned, kind of wanting to touch on, is the fact that any muzzleloader, and this has been my experience, and this is another reason why I like muzzleloaders so much. Across the board, I have done a whole lot less tracking for myself or kids or family or friends. I have done a whole lot less tracking with a muzzleloader than the guy that just
Oh yeah.
clipped one with a 300 Win Mag, and I got blood but I can't find it, can you come help me track it? And it's like, you're hunting with 300 Win Mag, really? So muzzleloader, I'll tell you, when you make impact, you make impact.
Yeah, you're shooting a
You're
Volkswagen at it.
shooting a Volkswagen. The deer, he's not the biggest deer I've ever killed, but he had the most points. I killed a decent 10-pointer. And it was funny because I was up on the side of a ridge and the wind was absolutely howling. It was a miserable morning to hunt. And I was sure I would never see anything. But I had been using some scent and just hosing it into the wind, praying and hoping something would happen. And in between wind gusts, I could hear leaves move. And I thought, that sounds like a deer approaching, but I can't, everything is moving. Um, and so all of a sudden, this deer, he's just walking out the side of the ridge about 40, maybe 50 yards below me. And I was hunting open sight, not because we couldn't use scopes, just because I didn't have a scope on. And this was with that Night American. I raised it to my shoulder, that 240 grain XTP with 90 grains of loose powder at roughly 50 yards. Through the smoke, I saw his hooves at the top of the smoke plume because it flipped him completely 360 degrees down the ridge. It was unbelievable. And so, I have a great respect for lobbing that big chunk of lead at something. And it doesn't have to go fast to do that.
And my hunts this year, again, are just like last year and the year before. My 100% of my hunting this year is going to be with some form of a muzzleloader.
Mm-hmm.
From Virginia to Idaho to Oregon, if I draw that antelope tag. And most of these are going to be general rifle seasons or some variant of.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking forward to shooting that smokeless in Idaho during the general season by virtue of the fact that the velocity and energy. You talk about tipping something over. I've done the numbers. I don't have the gun yet, clearly, but I've run the numbers on it, and at 2,950 feet per second, which I think is very doable with that 300 grain Parker, is going to have just shy of 6,000 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. It has more energy at 400 yards than a 300 Win Mag has at the barrel.
I'm laughing because I love it.
And a 300 grain bullet.
And a 300 grain bullet to boot. And that is probably seriously overkill on the average whitetail. But if you want a rig that you can literally hunt everything with a muzzleloader,
every North American game,
anything, there is nothing that you can't absolutely hunt and anchor with one good well placed shot with that. Right. At range. Yep. At range.
At range.
And
I was considering bringing the Acura LR actually to Virginia and shooting Blackhorn, to be honest, but because it's going to be overkill, and then having the other gun for some longer range stuff on a tinker with on the ranch.
Sure. Well, no,
it's overkill.
It is, but that's okay. As they say, that's underrated.
Well, and I'm going to hunt mule deer with it in Idaho.
Yeah.
So,
well, mule deer, in my experience, having seen some, especially while I was elk hunting, of course, saw all kinds of mule deer. They have a very drum-shaped body. They're a robust animal. So, I imagine some of the bigger ones are going to provide a little bit more of a necessity for something that will really, really put some energy into them, especially if you want them anchored. And of course, it's nice to be able to pull the trigger and you see a white belly laying there. You don't have to worry about which way did it go, et cetera, et cetera. So
I don't like to track if I don't have to.
No. I do enjoy being able to walk up on one and have no issues.
Yeah. And then obviously mule deer, my ranges by and large are going to be further.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to be shooting that Volkswagen a little further than I'm going to be shooting back east with it. So.
It'll have some of the wind out of its sails by the time it gets there, but not a whole lot.
It's not a lot. I've done the math again out to 6. It's, as far as energy goes, it's good to 1,000.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I don't know.
Now I won't shoot it there.
No.
But 600 yards, it's still 2,200 feet per second. And I say it was 20. I'd have to go back and look. Maybe it was 1,900 feet per second and 2,200 foot-pounds energy at 600 yards. And 600 yards is not out of the question in the West. That's my personal stopping point. I won't, if I can't get that, shoot it, that I'll get closer.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my self-imposed stopping point in the West. But and so I've done all the math to that point on that rifle that we're building, and it's there.
Oh yeah,
It will do it.
it is. Um, and it's funny because I don't know what the maximum ranges are that these guys they'll have out in Kentucky. Hankins is of course very involved. I know they have some big shoots out there where they get out and
Mhm.
shoot them at extended ranges, and I know 1,000 yards has been surpassed at this point.
Yeah, they've shot him a mile now.
I'm sure they have. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, I watched a video of them doing
Well,
it.
see,
It's awesome.
there you go. I wasn't aware of that, but I do
And
know.
it's that big, giant barreled, big, heavy barreled things that he's building, but
Well,
they're still
you know,
putting
when you come here, we may be able to put you on a mile target. That may be a possibility with that smokeless muzzleloader.
just be something to see.
It'd just be
You're running,
something to see.
you're going to run the wind. The wind is going to be your challenge at that.
The wind will.
And I think most of those guys are shooting 40s, the 40 cals at those
Mhm.
distances. But still,
I believe by the letter of the law in the state of Virginia, 40 isn't legal. I think muzzleloaders have to be 45 or larger.
yeah, I think that's for when they're target shooting. I don't think they're
Uh,
shooting those
well,
40s.
I mean, in Kentucky and other states, I don't think they have that.
That's not a thing.
It's not a thing. Virginia is a little bit more bit more squirrely with some of their technical stuff. Every state around us, you can hunt whitetail with a centerfire 22 cartridge, but you cannot in Virginia.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Eh, kind of makes sense.
well, I used to 100% agree, but on the same token, as you know, bullet selection and the velocities that you can get out of a 22 centerfire,
Oh yeah.
I mean, unbelievably lethal.
Mhm.
But I get that if you tell everybody they can hunt with a 223 centerfire, you run the risk of idiots doing what idiots do.
Yeah. Well, and you have to have shot placement too. I don't care what anybody says. Bullet selection and velocity is good, but you still got to put it where it needs to be.
But you know, I personally have had issues with bigger guns that I thought I had good shots on and apparently didn't have good shots, and 308,
Mhm.
30-06, etc. just did not didn't do
Didn't do the
didn't
job.
do the job like it should have, which again is still it's my fault. But on the same token, you know, there is this concept that people have: the bigger the gun, the quicker and better it dies, and it's not. It is 100% shot placement. So,
Shot placement.
mhm.
Yeah. Even with the smokeless, I mean, it's going to hit like a Thor's hammer,
Sure,
but you still have to put the bullet in the right spot. So,
that is 100% fact. Which I don't think is going to
so
be an issue whatsoever. But
no. So we've been at this an hour 13. I know your wife is going to be coming home from the
rescue squad.
firehouse here
Oh
soon.
yeah, yeah.
Rescue squad, yeah. So let's get this wrapped up. I got a couple of some snapshot questions for you.
Okay.
What's your favorite animal to hunt
Whitetail.
and why?
Uh you know, honestly, I don't have an answer for that other than um, it was just a drive as a child, and one of those things that I kind of faced was not having all the opportunities to hunt as a youngster that other kids in school did, and it was such a big part of the culture, and I felt it in my bones that that's been it. And so once I did finally get the opportunity and I grew into it and actually built some success, it's it. It's the time of year I want to be in the woods, that smell of the leaves, the feel of the air, just everything about it. There isn't an aspect of hunting them that I don't like. I've hunted small game, rabbits and squirrels and all kinds of critters, and I've always enjoyed it and enjoyed rabbit stew and squirrels. My best friend, his mother, would say, "You want to eat? Go, bring me something." And so we would go and we'd bring back squirrels and rabbits and eat really well and had loads of fun doing it. But when it comes to the passion of what are you gonna, and my wife would tell you this, my time and money when it comes to hunting and hunting preparation is almost solely for whitetail. Getting out there on Saturday and Sunday afternoons, throwing the cameras up, checking the cameras religiously, going
Mhm.
through the cards and looking at the pictures and just all of that. If you're doing it right, it lasts more than the actual season.
That's actually a pretty good reason why, bud.
Yeah.
For somebody who said he wasn't sure. Yeah. Hey, what's a bucket list hunt? What would you like to do? And why?
Bucket list hunt. Wow, that's a great question. I'll be honest. I hope, and I've been saving my. Hopefully this year I will get my third Wyoming preference point. But I would really, really love to make contact on a really good bull elk. Um, I'm just fascinated by the hunting. I had such a good time hunting the elk, the spike elk in Utah, even though we didn't bring one home. And I love to eat them as much as I love to eat whitetail and smoke a back strap and just consume it with glee. Elk, every bite of elk I've ever had throughout my life has just been it's been exquisite. There's no comparison. I don't know how to describe it to people that have never eaten it, but between eating the elk and just wanting that one big bull,
Hmm.
I just that's probably my bucket list hunt. I don't have much interest in rams and bears and things of that nature. I'll tell you, I should back up and add super quick. I do enjoy hog hunting. Down in Florida, I have
Okay.
connected with 3 hogs in Florida over the past few years through my travels with my career, and we have so much fun with that.
Pig hunting is actually fun.
It's very fun,
That's it. It's very fun.
but
Yeah,
it's still not whitetail.
yeah, but it's a fun hunt. So, uh, as far as memories go, what's one that stands out for you?
You gave me a little warning on that one, and I got to be honest, I have a lot because I'm so focused on it. Every year, there's some kind of awesome memory that I have, but I would say going back to the very hunt when the monkey got on my back for whitetail hunting. Um, I had been hunting hard with a buddy of mine that hung around back in those days, and he would go to one spot lower on my mountain, and I would go up higher. And my heartbreak with the muzzleloader came when I popped 2 caps, musket caps, on a 58 caliber 3 ring infield on this buck that might have been 5 yards away. I was situated up on top. We have these massive rocks at the top of the mountains here because the erosion leaves these big chunks of rock. So I was sitting on top of this rock, up way up above the back of the deer. Well, this deer came down even with me, and he came so fast and appeared out of nowhere. I shot from the hip and just pop caps on it. It was the most embarrassing, heartbreaking. He runs for just about 30 yards, stops, turns around, looks at me. I get another cap on it. He sits there and waits the whole time. And it was complete lack of success. And it was heartbreaking. We only had 1 week of early muzzle loading at that time frame. So rifle season opened on Monday of the next week. So I went back with a 788 and 308, and I was sitting on that rock and everything. It just felt good. It was very deer feeling, but nothing was happening. About 5 o'clock, 45 minutes of light left, I heard him coming, and I sat there, and of course I was shaking. I mean, I was just
Of course.
just torn out of the frame waiting on this deer to show up. Well, then all of a sudden the sound of him walking, he's getting quieter and quieter further away, and all of a sudden, my heart's breaking. I'm like, oh my gosh, this deer is walking past me. It's over. I'm not gonna get this deer. And then suddenly I saw his rack come up over the side of the ridge. It was like a crown. And then he pokes his head up, looks around 3 or 4 times, surveys, comes right out on his oak flat in front of me, and he charged this little cedar tree. And he hit that cedar tree like it owed him money, and he horned and he fought with that tree. And I'm just sitting there, I'm scared to death. I'm like, holy crap, there's that buck. Oh, what am I supposed to do? So he spins around broadside. I raise that 308 to my shoulder, and I just crosshair snapshot. And because I'd only killed one deer before that, I had no idea what to expect. But he turned and bolted and ran down the mountain. And I thought, there is no way I just missed that deer. There's no way I missed that deer. I was heartbroken. And I thought, well, I better go look. I walked down, and it looked like you'd taken a bucket of blood, thrown it against an oak tree, and I started following the trail. And he slid most of the way, about 50 yards. He had slid down the side of the ridge, and it's nice 8-pointer. I won $100 bill at work for our internal big buck contest with that deer. that was just the most holy crap. I can't believe it all came together. I did everything mostly right. And that one stands out a lot. That was that had me hooked right there. It was over.
That's the one that set the hook right
That,
there.
I'd killed a doe before that, and I enjoyed hunting, and I did it because it was cultural. But that one right there, that was the one that would bring me to all the other ones.
That's why whitetail is still your favorite
That's still
critter, though, right?
whitetail is still my favorite.
Stay with
That may change someday. I'm not going to sit here and say it'll always be
Sure.
like that, but
In the moment, that's where we're
in
at.
the
That's
moment,
awesome.
that's right. But yeah, that's. And when I met my wife, I've never killed a deer. And I was like, well, you hang around with me long enough and you're going to kill a
You
deer. So
will.
that first year that we dated, by gosh, she went out and her dad took her and they sat down and kind of she killed her deer. So she was
That's
really thrilled. She killed a 3-point buck. And so I'd gone to a different spot with a buddy of mine, and she came back and was like, "Oh, I got my 3-pointer," and I was like, "Oh, well, check this one out. Here's a 6-pointer." Which in those days, that's any buck was a good buck. So
yeah, any buck's a good buck, yeah, for sure. Cool, man. Anything to add?
I don't suppose so. Probably people are going to be sick of hearing us by now. So
I,
just
I
be.
doubt that. I'll be honest. This was a good one. How can people find you?
Oh, I prefer that they don't. No, they anybody can call me anytime. You can email me at my email. Be J as in Joliet Porter, Porter at TritonTrainingGroup.com. That's my official work email and the one that I check the most. So if anybody
Okay.
has questions about hunting or smokeless stuff, if I can help them, I'd be glad to.
Do you have any social media presence?
I do. I am on Facebook. Triton Training Group. We have an Instagram account. I'm not good at it. I'm still kind of fuddy when it comes to electronics. I have mastered Facebook pretty well. Those would be the two primary places on social
Okay.
media to get to it. So
And it's a Triton Training Group.
on Instagram, yes. Well, we also have a Facebook page, but then I'm under just Jacob Porter as well. So there's the personal and the
Okay.
business page on Facebook.
All right. Perfect. I'll get those in the show notes so people can reach out to you if they need to.
Sure, and
I appreciate you coming on, bud. Like, seriously, this was a fun one.
well, I appreciate you having me. I've never done this before, and I hope I haven't made a huge fool of myself. But you got a great thing going with this podcast, and I'm proud of you for doing it. And I think it's just awesome. So, and like I said, everything I've listened to so far, just it tickles me. And listen to you talk to your wife. I just that was so awesome because it's like, wow, she sounds a lot like my wife. This, I would
Yeah.
think,
Well, actually, knowing your wife, that's actually the case.
yeah, put them in a kitchen, and I would be fat
Yeah.
fast. So no question.
Yeah, and this is kind of a labor of love. I really actually kind of enjoy doing this. I mean, it's not like this is something a moneymaker. I actually spend money to do this, but
Yeah, but there's a reward to
it's
it.
it's a reward, and I enjoy doing it. And if we make a difference and make somebody smile along the way, and get a piece of information they didn't have prior, that's a win.
Oh,
So
100%. And I hope anybody that listens that hasn't tried muzzleloading hunting will absolutely give muzzleloading hunting a try because I just can't say it enough. It's one of the most rewarding styles of hunting, and it's my preferred.
it is mine as well. And to that end, I'm actually researching for not this summer as I got too much going on, but for next year, maybe doing some kind of rendezvous or some type of muzzleloader hunting forum and bring people in and go to the range and shoot and do some different stuff. So I'm kind of exploring that for 2026.
That's a cool idea. Maybe we could coordinate and get an East Coast, West Coast
That'd be awesome.
kind of going because I had kind of I'm sure it won't happen this year, but I had really started the concept of with all these smokeless muzzle loaders I've helped these guys with, bring them all together and get them shooting and swap recipes and let each one see what the other one's gun can do and just play around with it. But if we could do that on both coasts and organize it, that'd be pretty
Right.
daggone cool.
Yeah, and I'm going to have some time coming up because retirement date is going to be set here pretty quick. So.
Yeah, well, if I have anything to do with that, I'm going to put you right back to work here and there. So.
Fantastic. All right, buddy. I think that's a wrap.